what is it that's holding you back, keeping you from becoming everything that God has created you to be, living your purpose and reaching your destiny? Is it self doubt, feeling that you don't measure up to others? Perhaps it's fear or lack of resources, offenses and challenges, maybe even past or current circumstances. Well, I want you to know that these are pathologies, diseases of the mind that negatively impact how you think and perceive things that invade your everyday life. You can overcome these peculiarities and become conquerors, living in the purpose that God has for your life. The Bible in Philippians 4:13 teaches us, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Hello, I'm your coach Dee Johnson, and I'm going to share with you on how you can overcome these pathologies and be all that God created you to be on today's Watering the Seed. Welcome back, Seeds. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, welcome to the Watering the Seed channel where we empower people to live a better life. I'm Coach D, and I want to talk to you about the old adage that says, that's just the way I am, called Overcoming Generational Pathologies. It was, I believe, the third episode for the Watering the Seed channel. And in that episode, I unpacked how these patterns are passed down through generations. I shared practical tips on how to break the cycle. I encourage you, if you haven't heard it, go back and take a listen. Take a listen today because we're starting a powerful 3-part podcast series that will take you on a journey of self-discovery, generational awareness, and healing. We're building on the foundation of the earlier episode, Overcoming Generational Pathologies, okay? So this series is asking the hard but necessary question, and that is, why do we act the way we do? Each episode in this series peels back the layers of inherited behaviors, both good and bad. These behaviors that may have shaped our choices or are shaping our choices, our relationships, and could possibly impact our futures if not checked. Through scripture, real life stories, and reflective guidance, I will explore awareness. Just about pointing out patterns, it's about equipping you to rewrite your story. If overcoming generational pathologies open the door, then how did you get here walks you all the way through the healing, transformation, and into freedom. Because the truth is, a tree is known by the fruit it bears. And it's time to bear something new, seeds. Now let's get started. Again, Seeds, welcome to the start of a brand new series I'm calling How Did You Get Here? How did you get here? Now, I'm not just talking about where you live or what job you have. I'm talking about the deeper question. How did you get here emotionally, spiritually, in your habits, your relationships, your patterns? See, the truth is, a lot of the fruit we see in our lives didn't start with us. It did not start with us. It came from seeds planted long before us through family systems, unspoken pain, and repeated choices we didn't even realize we inherited. Did I say inherited? I did. I said these things we may have inherited them. In this first episode, we're talking awareness. We're going to define what pathologies really are. We're going to pull back the curtain on how they asking the honest questions that open the door to healing. Because like my father used to say, and like scripture reminds us, a tree is known by the fruit it bears. So today, let's take a look. Let's take a look at our fruit and start tracing it back to where certain behaviors or character traits you have come from. Or has someone ever said to you, you act just like your dad, or you respond like your mother, Or maybe they've compared your behaviors to someone else in your bloodline. Well, at least in your bloodline. Well, at least I know I have. I've been told that someone in my bloodline looks like me, and then I've been told that this same person is like me. But there is a difference, and we'll talk about it later. And I'm pretty certain many of you have heard this as well. But if you haven't, if you're one of those who haven't, there's much to discover about yourself as you will learn in this series. So, seeds, this series is about more than geography or physical location. It's about tracing the steps, the choices, the influence, and yes, even the silent wounds that led us to where we are today. Now, hey, listen, let's be real. Some of us are carrying things we never signed up for. Our attitudes, behaviors, patterns. Some of us have trauma, cycles we don't even know are running the show, our show. So let me ask you this. How did you get here? Not just where you live, not just what job you have, although those things also have, in the way you respond to life in general. Let me give you some scripture that will help me lay the foundation for our topic. Let's ground this in scripture by referencing Matthew 12 and 33, which reads as follows. A tree is known by the fruit it bears. A tree is known by the fruit it bears. Now, throughout my childhood, I heard this quote many times, countless times, if you will. Because my dad used to quote this when he would see a child, boy or girl, behaving in a way that reminded him of one or both of their parents. And even adults who carried themselves in a particular way, good or bad, my dad would recognize those patterns. Just recognizing the behavior, knowing the parents or not knowing the parents, say a tree is known by the fruit it bears, even with his own children. When one of us would get in trouble, he would say, a tree is known by the fruit it bears. And honestly, if you could dig into that person's past and or learn about their upbringing, you would see that he was correct every time. Absolutely correct every time. Now, as a child, I understood it in the simplest way. Good people do good things, bad people do bad things. But it really wasn't about that, childish way of thinking or understanding things. But now, I see it quite differently. You see, a tree doesn't just sprout out of nowhere. It's rooted. It's shaped by soil, by seasons, by storms, and most importantly, by what's been planted before it. I hope you caught that. By what's been planted before it. You see, I have a tree in my front yard. I'm not exactly sure what kind it is. Maybe an elm, maybe an ash tree, but what I do know is that at a certain time of the year, usually right after spring begins and everything starts to sprout up, it begins to shed what we call helicopter seeds. Some people call them or refer to them as whirlybirds. I think maple trees do the same thing. I think they do have those helicopters with the two seeds attached, but some other trees only have the one seed attached. But I believe the maple tree does too. But anyway, these little seeds break away from the parent tree and fall spiraling down to the soil. Food for birds or animals, and then the rest, for me, I just rake them up, sweep them up, and toss them in the trash. But if you've ever left those seeds untouched, letting them rest on the soil, something amazing happens. Conditions, sunlight, and water, they start to sprout. Tiny shoots push up through the ground. They're fragile but alive. Most people mistake them for weeds, but they're actually baby trees germinating. And if you let those little sprouts survive year after year, maybe decade after decade, they'll mature into full-grown trees, parent trees. And when their season comes, they'll drop their own helicopter seeds, repeating the cycle and multiplying what they are. They are who they are. That's when the scripture comes in. A tree is known by the fruit it bears. Now, let's take that analogy and apply it to us, to our behaviors, our characteristics, the patterns that shape who we become. Patterns that shape who we become. The fruit we see in our lives, our habits, our reactions, maybe our choices, didn't just appear. They come from seeds planted long before us. But here's the part I didn't mention earlier. Those little helicopter seeds don't just grow in peace. No, it's not a peaceful growth. Their growth is tested. They face thunderstorms, harsh weather conditions, harsh winters, intense summer heat, seasons of drought, insects chewing at them, and yet somehow some of them survive before they're plucked up, believing that they're weeds, but some of them survive. Now, doesn't that sound just like life? Just like life. Some of us have weathered storms we didn't ask for. We've weathered these storms. Some of us have survived drought, rejection, pain, betrayal, and we've had people walk all over us as if we didn't matter. But even in those conditions, growth can still happen. Growth has still happened. And that's where the word pathologies come in. Because just like trees carry forward the seeds that created them, we too carry forward patterns, good and bad, that were planted in us. These patterns that were planted in us. And unless we become aware of them, they'll keep multiplying, shaping not just us, but those who come after us. When we hear the word pathology, when I hear the word pathology, I usually think medical. Maybe disease, maybe medical diagnosis, medical conditions. But in this series, I want us to look at pathology as patterns of behavior that get passed down through generations. And you probably could say it's a medical condition. But in this season, in this series, we're going to start healing that condition, okay? Now, maybe some of you can identify with some of these patterns or behaviors. Maybe your grandmother was silent about abuse, so silence became a pathology in your family. Maybe your father abandoned the family, and now abandonment shows up in trust issues, unstable relationships, or even emotional shutdown. Maybe in some of our homes, anger was the default response, and now you struggle with emotional regulation. Or perhaps as a child, you witnessed chaos in the home, parents fighting, money unstable, environment just outright unpredictable. And as a child, you feel powerless, so you adapt by trying to control whatever little you can. That control, that control becomes survival, a survival mechanism. And these aren't just habits, survival mechanism. And these aren't just habits. They're inherited systems of survival. Survival that if left unchecked becomes destructive. And the wild part is many times we don't even know we're living out someone else. Just say, that's just how I am. But is it? Is it? Or is it how you were shaped? Let me paint you a picture. Let's paint a picture. If you could, imagine a young man whose father walked out when he was maybe just about 5. Abandonment plants a seed. Abandonment plants a seed within him, and he grows up. He struggles with trust. He avoids deep connections because deep down he expects people to leave. That's that abandonment seed. He gets into relationships, but he sabotages his relationships. He leaves before they leave. Okay? And then fast forward. Now he has kids of his own. Kids that he loves very dearly. But when life gets hard, guess what? He runs. He runs just like his father because that seed of abandonment. The fruit on his tree is abandonment, but the root that goes back a generation, okay? It goes back to his dad. And if you dig further enough, you may even find out that it goes back further than his dad. And here's the kicker. He may not even realize it's not just his issue. It's an inherited pathology, a silent hand guiding his actions, a silent hand guiding his actions, a stain, if you will, on the bloodline. And until awareness shows up, the cycles repeat. They just continue. That's why awareness is the first step. You cannot heal what you won't name. We have to give it a name. Now we've given it a name. We are aware that these behaviors are generational pathologies passed down to me, to you, and maybe even our children. But now that we are aware of these generational pathologies, we can get to work on healing the generational pathologies. We can get to work on healing the bad ones, the toxic ones, the ones that threaten our future generations with unhealed wounds. We can begin to heal our bloodlines. So let's start here. I'll ask you again, how did you get here? Think about that. And while you're thinking about that, I want you to ask yourself about the ways you react under pressure. How do I react when I'm under pressure? Does that have anything to do with that bloodline, with that generational pathology? The kind of people you are drawn to, pathology. The kind of people you are drawn to. Am I drawn to a certain type of people? And if so, why? Why am I drawn? Does that have anything to do with that generational pathology? And then the habits you just can't seem to shake. Think about those habits. Does that have anything to do with generational pathologies? Let's start digging. Did you choose these things? Or were they handed down to you like an old family heirloom you just didn't even ask for? Awareness with that's just how I am. No, no, seeds. No. It's time to dig into the why. The why. So let's reflect on it. I want you to grab your favorite journal, that old raggedy journal that you keep. Maybe it's not raggedy, maybe it's brand new. Just grab your favorite journal. It doesn't matter. It's yours. So grab a journal and a pen and write down these reflection questions. There's only two, but I want you to take some time and reflect on them. Okay? Start today. Number one, what fruit is showing up in your life? Number one, what fruit is showing up in your life that you didn't plant? Think about the habits, the behaviors, again, the people you may be drawn to, the habits you can't shake, or the way you react in certain circumstances. What fruit is showing up in your life you didn't plant? And then number two, where might the root be? Did you choose these yourself, or did it come from someone else? Your parents, your dad's side of the family, your mom's side of the family? And how far back does it go? Okay? Where far back does it go? Okay? Where might the root be? Now, seeds, I encourage you to journal it, voice note it, or even talk it out with someone you trust, okay? Because once you identify the root, so make sure that you discuss this, if you must, with someone that you absolutely can trust with this. You can trace the seed, You can trace the seed. Yes, you can trace the seed. You know, that tree in my yard with the helicopter seeds just me something. Every time I see those seeds fall, those whirlybirds, those annoying helicopters that come every year like clockwork. Those seeds don't just disappear, they either get eaten, tossed away, or they take root. And when they take root, and when they take root, they grow into baby trees, fragile at first, but if they survive storms and droughts and all the pressures around them, they eventually become parent trees. And then they start the cycle all over again. That's how behaviors, wounds, and even unspoken family pain operate. They're like seeds falling from one generation into the next. And if we're not aware, those seeds take root in us. They take root in us. They grow into habits, into patterns, into ways of living that we never really choose, but we carry them anyway. And that's why awareness matters, because once we see the fruit, we can trace it back to the seed and we can decide whether it's worth planting again or not. So next time we're going deeper, okay? And our pathologies don't just touch us, they ripple through entire bloodlines. We'll talk about the generational impact and why awareness isn't just about you, it's about those who come after you. But before we leave, let me remind you, a tree, let me remind you, a tree is known by the fruit it bears. Okay, keep that in mind. A tree is known by the fruit it bears. Awareness is the doorway to change. So you have to start with being aware that these things actually exist because they. A tree is known by its fruit, but healing starts when we check the root. When we check the root. Today you've seen the fruit. Now it's time to start looking at the root. So I want you to affirm this with me before we get out of here. Affirm this. I see fruit, but I will not fear the root. I am aware, I am awakening, and I am ready to grow differently. Again, affirm this with me. I see the fruit, but I will not fear the root. I am aware, I am awakening, and I am ready to grow differently. So until next week, seeds, I love you. Take good care of yourself and keep watering your seeds.